All right, what's up, kids? It's a Friday edition of the Slate. Steve Buchanan here with my handsome co-host, Matt LaMarca. We're going to get as much information into this edition of the Slate as we can, as that last Madden game was about as long as the Red Sox-Yankees game was this morning. And I think that was like 7 hours long. Don't quote me on the time there, but that's what it felt like. Yeah, approximately. That's what it felt like. So we're going to try to jam as much information into this show as we can for the 5-game slate here tonight. We'll hit on a little DFS, we'll hit on a little sportsbook action and get you set to set your lineups and your bets and all that. But first and foremost, let's get the pleasantries out of the way. Matt LaMarca, it's been a long time since you and I have done one of these shows. October, I think, was the last time, but we are back. We both look the same. We both look handsome. I'm happy to be here with you.
Well, I appreciate that, Bukes. I have missed you. You know, it's been fun spending some time with my old pals, Glash and Kaufman, and maybe they'll still pop by from time to time on one of these Friday shows, but the OG Friday crew is back together talking baseball. Let's get it.
That's literally what I was just thinking too. Like, this is where the show started and really, planted its foot in the ground. And now we're back here once again. Ratings are going to skyrocket. I have no doubt about that. Let's talk about this slate tonight. 5 games on the docket. Mets at Nationals, Rangers at Blue Jays. Good Lord, that Blue Jays lineup is scary. Reds at Braves, Astros at Angels, and then Padres at Diamondbacks. Not a very resounding pool of pitchers, I guess, you can choose from here tonight. But before I get into that, I just want to get your opinion on some of these, what we've seen over the past day and a half from baseball starting here. And we know, obviously, everything that happened during the offseason, the lockout happened, a shortened spring training happened. But one thing that quickly has seemed to creep up already is that a lot of these pitchers that I've seen so far, and obviously very small sample here, they just don't look ready. And a lot of these guys haven't gone deep into games. We saw Giolito go about 4 innings today. Eduardo Rodriguez went about 4. Shane Bieber was pulled, it seemed, really early yesterday going up against the Royals. Wasn't exactly pitching bad by any means. He was pulled early. Do you think this is going to be a trend that we're going to see at least for the next few weeks? Because I don't want to say, teams are treating this as like an extended spring training, because obviously these games mean something. But when it comes to workloads, at least very early on, that's what it kind of feels like so far.
Yeah, I mean, teams are definitely easing their guys into it. You had a few pitchers go 6 innings yesterday, but they were an efficient 6, right? Framber Valdez only went 84 pitches. Wainwright, who went 6 innings, only was at about 80 pitches. So, yes, I think there's going to be a gradual buildup for most pitchers. The one thing I will say is that I think that there's an exception on today's slate. And I think his name is Maximus Scherzer.
Oh, yeah.
He was already throwing 6 innings during spring training. The guy is just an absolute lunatic madman facing his former team here. I think that, 5 innings kind of feels like the baseline for him. And I think he can certainly get a 6 or 7 today.
Now, do you worry about him a little bit, though? Because obviously that hamstring injury, it was potentially that he was going to miss the start of the regular season. He's obviously taking the mound tonight. But being the most expensive guy on this slate by about $800, when you have somebody like Sean Manaea, who's looked great, obviously the trade there from Oakland to San Diego going against a very poor Arizona team, even Barrios going up against Texas, who did improve a lot offensively, but they're also probably going to lead the league in American League in runs scored and then lead the league in runs allowed. That's probably what the Texas Rangers are going to be this year. And then even Martin going up against the Reds. Do you have any qualms at all about Scherzer with that hamstring injury and then with some of the other options, at least at the top, that are viable at their price point?
Yeah, I really don't. I think that it's a hamstring. It's not an arm issue. The reason that they were debating pushing his start was just they were unsure about his ability to field the position. He went through some fielding drills on Thursday. The reporter said that he looked, really smooth, really fluid. Scherzer has talked about pitching with a hamstring injury before. He feels like it doesn't impact his mechanics. I just think that the way they've ramped this guy up, he's basically a full go for me. And this Washington lineup, it's a little bit improved from what they were last year. They did add Nelson Cruz, but for the most part, there's a lot of guys in there that are not going to scare you. You have to worry about Juan Soto, of course. Josh Bell, he's okay. Kyber Ruiz has some promise, but when you look at teams now that are playing a full-time DH, this Nats lineup is one of the least formidable in baseball.
No, for sure too. And then I definitely agree with that too. That was the only qualm that I had, was that the hamstring injury, because on a normal basis on this slate, he is by far the chalk. And that wouldn't even be a question here. I still think he's going to be, but there are some guys that I mentioned that are viable, like Sean Manaea going up against the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks are going to be going absolutely nowhere this season. They were the worst team in MLB last year. That is likely going to continue once again. And even Charlie Morton going up against the Reds. I don't understand what the Reds did this offseason. No one seems to understand what the Reds did in this offseason, but Charlie Morton says he's ready to go for tonight. He was, great last year. This is somebody who, even as he's creeping up in age, still striking out almost 11 batters per 9 inning last year. He's been electric. And now going up against this Reds offense, who, by the way, they did end up tagging Max Fried pretty well yesterday. But, I think Charlie Morton, he's somebody that can induce a lot more swings and misses than Max Fried can. Max Fried is somebody who doesn't strike out over a batter per inning. Morton exceeds that. So I think Morton will be able to get those outs, because quite frankly, Max Fried got numerous guys with 2 strikes, could not put them away. That was the biggest issue with that start last night. Charlie Morton's going to be able to do that tonight against the Reds.
Yeah, I think Charlie Morton is the only guy here that really rivals Scherzer in my eyes. You consider the difference in price, he might even be a better option than Scherzer.
Yeah.
I think playing both guys together is fine. Morton is a slightly bigger favorite. He has a slightly lower opponent implied team total. He's a good pitcher, right? I mean, I think he's similar to Scherzer in that he's an older guy. He's probably a little bit more ready for the start of the season than some of these younger pitchers might be. So Charlie Morton to me gets the edge over Manaea, over Barrios. It's him and Scherzer in the 2 top spots for me.
And if you take those 2 guys, that gives you just under 4K for the rest of your lineup, which doesn't sound like a lot, but there's some decent value here tonight, especially on, I think, on the Mets here. Like you look at Robinson Cano, who, yep. I totally forgot he was on this team, right? Because he was suspended the entire year. He came back and he's playing. And if he's going to be hitting 6th in this lineup at 2,400, like that's an absolute steal, right? Because look at all the guys that are in front of him. If there's one thing the Mets did right this offseason was improve that lineup. Like, yes, they lost Michael Conforto, but if you're going to give me guys like Eduardo Escobar, Starling Marte in his place, like that is a viable, more than viable replacement. I love, by the way, the move for Eduardo Escobar. Like, talk about somebody who doesn't get valued enough. Like, he fits perfectly into this lineup. Switch hitter, can play in multiple positions. And the lefties on the Mets tonight are definitely the guys that you want to be targeting going up against Josiah Gray. If you look at his numbers across the board against lefties, by far the worst pitcher, at least on this slate, against lefties. And, the Mets seem like they've recognized that. Nimmo's leading off. You got Lindor, Escobar, Cano, Jeff McNeil down in the 8th spot. So there's a lot of guys here that aren't overly expensive and going up against what you could probably say is the weakest pitcher on this slate.
Yeah, it's interesting because you have him and you have Reed Detmers for the Angels, 2 guys that are pretty highly touted prospects.
Yeah.
But 2 guys who did not fare well in their limited MLB action last year. So I'm not sure how much room for improvement you want to project those guys to have. But yes, I agree that the Mets offense probably stands out as one of the top targets. They have the highest implied team total on this slate at 5.2 runs. And they did, like you said, they brought in a lot of just what I'm calling professional baseball players in the offseason, right? They didn't make a superstar signing in terms of their offense, but they brought in a lot of pros. Right. Escobar's a pro. Starling Marte is a pro. Mark Canha is a pro. Those guys all contributed to their win yesterday. I think that the Mets offense is going to be really good this year.
And one note on Detmers too, like if there's a team as a lefty you do not want to start your season against, it's probably the Houston Astros, even without Carlos Correa, who, by the way, was one of their best hitters against lefties. But still, that team is going to rake against lefties, just like the Chicago White Sox. That's another team that against lefties are just going to absolutely rake all season long. That's a team you do not want to face. And then one note I also want to make on Jake Odorisi, he only made one appearance in spring training, went 2 innings during spring training. Now, I know they said on the side he threw some simulated games to kind of build up his pitch count. I cannot imagine he goes more than 4 innings max, maybe 5 if you're pushing it, but I'd be shocked if he goes 5. So if you're looking to pay down at pitcher tonight, you know, the options are really, really thin. Like, I don't even think you can pay down tonight because he would probably be the only option I'd consider. But with only 2 official innings logged, that's too scary for me, even at 5,800.
I'll take a sprinkle on John Gray at 5,400
against Toronto.
It's a tough matchup, but I mean, certainly it's no worse than pitching at Coors Field. I think he's just a better pitcher than a $5,400 price tag suggests.
Can you believe that on the Blue Jays, Matt Chapman bats 7th?
Yeah, he's not that good of a hitter.
But 7th, like Alejandro Kirk's in front of him.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
That's a little right. Like, I would think he would be 6th. Like, come on. Like, he's like, I get he's not, you know, a 300 hitter by any means, but Kirk's in front of Chapman. Come on now. That's really weird. So it's Kirk, Chapman, Jansen. That's a weird sandwich right there when it comes to the Toronto lineup. But there is that there. Kevin Biggio, by the way, totally forgot he's still in the league, batting 9th tonight. So there you go. Out of all the superstars they have, you got Biggio at the bottom there. Let's look at some of the hitting options for tonight. Obviously, we talked about stacking the Mets tonight is an option. If you also wanted to potentially stack, I don't hate doing the Angels either tonight going against Odorisi, because I know that, you know, like I mentioned, the short start here, I feel like he could get hit early. The top of the Angels lineup is incredible, right? Like, you look at the first 4 guys in the lineup, you're like, damn, this is a good lineup. After that, I don't know what the hell they're throwing out there.
What did they hit? Matt Duffy cleanup yesterday?
Matt Duffy, Max Stassi, you know, David Fletcher. It's like, what on earth? Like, they have, it's like that meme when you got the stallion and then like the horse's ass is like drawn. Like, that's literally the Angels lineup in a nutshell, because the front of it is amazing. The back end, you're like, holy crap. Like, what is this team? So a short stack with the Angels, I think is fine. But man, does that get ugly fast once you get to like 5 and below? Like, really, like the 5th hitter, I don't remember who it was. I think it was actually Max Stassi. I think was batting 5th last night. If Max Stassi is batting 5th, you got some issues there, right? Like, was Justin Upton that bad? We had a designated him for assignment. I know he's a boatload of money, but I mean, at least Justin Upton, when he was healthy, was giving you something, especially against lefties. But that lineup really, really turns the corner after the cleanup hitter.
It's pretty gross.
Yep. It's absolutely unbelievable, and I don't believe we have the lineup for that yet. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Any stack in particular other than the Mets that you're kind of eyeing tonight? We obviously have Toronto going, Atlanta with the powerhouse. A lot easier matchup for Atlanta this time around. Yesterday they faced Tyler Mahle. Tonight they face someone who basically has been in the minors for almost 10 years, I think it was. Maybe that was a stretch. Maybe it's 8 years. In San Martin from the Reds, who's also one of the more expensive pitchers on this slate, but very limited time up in the majors, 11 2/3 innings last year, just a cup of tea there. But this is somebody who was struggling even to get out of rookie ball. He was in rookie ball for 3 years to start his career. So any thoughts on a stack for tonight?
I think the Padres taking on Merrill Kelly, I have no problems going to that. Again, another team implied for more than 5 runs.
Yep.
And if you look at the price tags on some of their hitters, they're very affordable, for a team with this high of an implied team total. Luke Voit, 4K, Trent Grisham, leadoff hitter, 4,300. Basically everybody outside of Machado, I would say is pretty fairly priced.
Yeah.
So they're a team that I'm looking to tonight. I don't hate a Astros stack against Detmers. I think they're going to be a little bit more contrarian, but they're kind of the anti Padres because everybody on that team is super pricey.
Right.
The one guy that I would consider playing as like a one-off would be Aledmys Diaz at 3,700. If he gets the start against the left-hander, he could be batting up in the lineup. So that's somebody to keep your eye on if you're not stacking Houston but want to get a piece.
And, the Astros have a number of left-handed bats, but most of these lefties, like, do hit lefties well. Like Kyle Tucker hits lefties well. Yordan Alvarez has some good pop against either side of the plate. The only one I probably avoid is Brantley if he ends up starting in this one. He doesn't have good numbers against lefties throughout his career, but Alvarez and Tucker are both guys that I would still consider playing even against the lefty. And quite frankly, like, if we're in this mentality, right, that, pitchers aren't going deep into games, someone like Detmers, who we expect to get hit early, like, I would like the lefties even more, because if he's out of here by 3 or 4 innings, then you get the left on right matchups out of that bullpen. And to be fair, the Angels bullpen is probably going to be one of their strengths this season. I would still be okay with taking those lefties because you're probably going to get them at lower ownership just because of the left on left perception. But these guys do hit lefties well.
It's a good point.
Another name too to keep a watch on is Jeremy Pena, 2,400. I don't know where he's going to be hitting in the lineup. I assume it's going to be low, but they're really kind of banking on him to come in and replace Carlos Correa. You're not just going to easily replace Carlos Correa, but at 2,400, really all of these top prospects are super mispriced to start the season. I mean, you were getting Bobby Witt Jr. I think it was 2,200 yesterday, which is just absurd. I mean, he only had one hit in the game, but you're never going to see Bobby Witt Jr. in the low 2K range again. Like, it's just not going to happen.
I was going to bring that up. I normally would never consider playing a number 9 batter, but CJ Abrams at 2,300, is one of the best values on the slate. He's right up there for me with Robinson Cano at 2,400. And then another cheap guy, if you need one, Cooper Hummel. Don't know anything about him, but he's 2,400 and he's batting leadoff. That's good enough for me.
Yeah, that absolutely is. Anytime you can get those type of guys there at the top of the lineup, you got to just take a shot with it. Any thoughts here on DFS before we move over to the sportsbook side? Obviously, we have a very condensed show, so we got to kind of move it along here a little bit. Any other closing thoughts on DFS before we move over to the sportsbook side?
I think cash games, just pair up Scherzer and Morton and then take the value where you can on offense. Tournaments, you don't necessarily need that pairing, but I think for cash games, you want to play it pretty safe at pitcher tonight.
So there was a couple of money lines tonight that I thought were oddly mispriced. One of them was Chicago White Sox, which the Detroit Tigers ended up winning on one of the flukiest plays you'll probably ever see. But the Mets had only minus 160 against the Nationals, against Josiah Gray, who's just been absolutely putrid. 160 is a little juiced up. But for a Scherzer start against that offense, that should definitely be higher than minus 160. Would you agree or disagree?
I agree. I'm just checking to see if there's any weird betting splits. I mean, it does seem like the Nationals are getting a little bit of sharp interest, but I don't know how you can back them against Scherzer tonight.
No,
so
not at all.
I might exercise a little bit of caution with the Mets, but I'm certainly not pivoting to the other direction.
I was just trying to see real quick if I could pull up the first 5 splits there, if that's that was at all possible, but I'm doing this on the fly, so I don't know exactly where it is. First 5 money line, minus 175 for the Mets. So obviously a little bit more juice there if you want to just go with Scherzer, but if that's the case, I wouldn't do that
anyway.
No,
I think that the Mets bullpen is significantly better than the Nationals bullpen.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Oh man. I dare you to announce or to say anybody in the Nationals bullpen. Can you even name one?
I watched the game last night.
Yeah.
And no, I can't.
And that's okay. I don't care if I'm somebody who covers baseball. I'm sorry. There's just some bullpens I know nothing about. The Nationals is one of them. Say I'm a fraud all you want. I don't care. I'm not going to waste my time and try to figure out the Nationals bullpen. So give me a break. Any underdogs on this one that you like? Because Houston's an underdog, which I was a little surprised about. Plus 105, right? For a team that's so good against lefties. That was another one that I was like, really? Plus money for the Astros
very interested in Houston. I think that that's a good bet. I'll take a flyer on the Rangers. I think Jose Barrios is one of the more overrated pitchers in the league.
Sure.
And I think that John Gray is pretty underrated. Especially when you consider a $5,400 price tag on DraftKings tonight. So I don't mind grabbing them at, they're around plus 150, 145, something like that. I'll take a flyer with Texas in this spot. And I wouldn't hate an over either, because I think, again, two teams that can put some runs on the board.
There was one strikeout prop that I was interested in, but it's been juiced up now. You can get Sean Manaea over 4.5 strikeouts, which is a fair number of minus 165, too expensive to me. I wouldn't hate if it got up to 5.5 either as well. The Diamondbacks are just a brutal team against lefties. A lot of free swingers in that lineup. Manaea's got some really good stuff. I feel like he's been kind of hidden in the Oakland Athletics organization, because this is a team that doesn't really go anywhere. But I think you're really going to kind of hear about Manaea this year. He's just got some nasty stuff. His stuff drops off the table.
He took a nice step forward last year, because he was always somebody that, he didn't really strike guys out, but he kind of hovered in that high 3, low 4 ERA. Last year he was up almost at around 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. So I agree. I think he's a nice option. And I just, looking at you scrolling here, I'll take Reed Detmers under 4.5 Ks tonight for sure.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. And again, some of these things that you are going to be paying some juice on, but it's I don't see a scenario where Detmers is going deep into games to even get 5. And then going up against this offense to begin with. The Astros were the toughest team in the league to strike out last year. The toughest team in the league to strike out last year. I think the overall K rate on that team was in the 17s. I think it was that is just absurd.
Right. So I'm looking just specifically against left-handers last year. They were first in WRC plus.
Yep.
Had the lowest strikeout rate in the league. It was at right around 18%.
Okay. So I knew it was right in that range, but just absolutely absurd. Reed Detmers is not going to come in here with his 7+ ERA from last year and all of a sudden strike out 5 Astros before he's pulled for 3 innings. So that's one to consider too as well. And then the other one I was looking at as well was taking the under on Josiah Gray at under 4.5 strikeouts. Again, just feels like a high total for someone that's been hit hard, especially by lefties. And the Mets are loaded on lefties in this game. Getting 5 strikeouts feels like a bit of a stretch for, this is the second best guy in the Nationals rotation. If you want to say first, it's Patrick Corbin. That worked out real well. Now you got Josiah Gray. I mean, you could just tell how bad this rotation is. That's your top 2 guys going in for the Nationals. And that cops a couple of games. That whole division is going to be good, except for the Nationals. That is by far the worst team in the
so you're
NL
taking
East.
it. You like the Marlins, huh?
Over the Nationals? Absolutely.
I'm not even saying over the Nationals, but you said the whole division is going to be good outside of the Nationals. So you're implying that the Marlins will be good.
I think you know what? I'll tell you what. The Marlins rotation.
Are they this year's Seattle Mariners, Steve? Everybody wants to know.
Oh man, they might be. That rotation is good. That rotation is really good.
A lot of electric young arms there.
Lopez, Alcantara, when they finally get Sixto Sanchez back, if he can start performing, that is a very, very good rotation. Their lineup isn't too shabby either. It's not explosive. It's not a bunch of household names, but they have enough good playmakers in that lineup that I wouldn't be surprised if they were over 500. I don't think they're going to be under 500 this year. I think they're an over 500 team.
Yeah, I think in this division it'll be tough for them.
For sure.
If the Mets and the Braves and the Phillies are as expected, it'll be tough for them to get to 82 wins. But yeah, they're clearly headed in the right direction, even if it wasn't as fast as Derek Jeter wanted it to be.
And the first woman GM in the league.
Right.
Kim. I forget her last name, but Kim.
I know that's her first name. Is it? Oh,
that's right. That's right. Yep. You're right. I'll just call her Kim. Can I call her Kim? I'll call her Kim.
Kimmy. We're friends here.
No doubt. Just real quick, I know obviously you probably weren't really ready for this, but just kind of looking ahead to tomorrow a little bit here. We got a full slate of games all throughout the day here. Have you looked at tomorrow's slate at all? I'm going to guess no, but did you? Have you?
The answer is no, I haven't. But I'll give you a first glance impression.
Okay, go ahead.
Let's see. I got to tell you right off the bat, Chris Bassett minus 140 sounds pretty good to me.
Yep.
Again, talk about an underrated player who is being hidden by playing in Oakland. Chris Bassett's a good pitcher. And now
certainly
he's taking on some guy that I've literally never even heard of.
Did Bassett make the All-Star game last year? I feel like he did.
He did.
Okay, I thought he did. Yep, I thought he did. Real quick too, Verlander minus 130 going against the Angels, being opposed by Noah Syndergaard. If there's anybody that's going to be protected on the Angels, it's 100% Noah Syndergaard. They're taking a flyer on him, and a very expensive
$20 million flyer.
A very expensive flyer, 1-year deal. But if there's anybody they're going to protect early on, especially with a shortened spring training, it's got to be that guy. So I would take my chances at minus 130 for the Astros going against the Angels.
Works for me.
I just wanted some sort of acknowledgement. That's all I wanted.
Works for me. Let's parlay him.
Let's not do that. Parlays are not winning bets. Just remember that. Oh, real quick,
That's
we do
true.
have the Angels lineup just came out. So you got Ohtani, Trout, Rendon, and then it's Walsh, who I do like. I do like Walsh. Then it's, good Lord, Rojas, Marsh, Suzuki, Wade, Fletcher. What a stallion to ass lineup that is. Truly, that is unbelievable. With that, we are going to wrap it up here for this edition of the Slate. We will be back here next Friday, hopefully a little bit more time. We rushed through this show. We were waiting, and it was like I mentioned, Red Sox, Yankees. That's what it felt like watching on that Madden simulation. What was that, Chiefs, Bears? I think it was. I don't know.
Yeah, Chiefs, Bears. The Bears giving the Chiefs all they can handle.
Right. Up next, we got Colts at Texans. That's what's up next here in the Simland. So make sure you get your lineups into this one. For Matt LaMarca, I'm Steve Buchanan. We will see you next Friday.